either during the public hearings or during the call for public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk staff prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable. When you hear the bell, you have 30 seconds to complete your remarks. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided, however, that such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within this chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman.
Here.
Councilmember Julie Zonner Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Bill Lusk.
Here.
Councilmember Bert Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Alan Tart is
Just for the record, Councilmember Tart is absent tonight, but I believe in work related in D.C. So.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
And Councilmember Longoria is here. I'd be honored if the Sons of the American Revolution would lead us in our pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we want to just welcome everybody here tonight. Also want to, I was pleasantly surprised as I was laying in bed about to nod off last night, and the 11 o'clock news is on, and I hear Milton, and I look up, and there's Councilmember Lusk and some volunteers, and Councilmember Longoria out putting out the crosses for the memorial crosses along Deerfield, and just want to say I was proud to see that on the TV, on the news, and it certainly was a very positive story for Milton and means a lot. And well, thank you for all your efforts on that. City Clerk, please, next item.
Next item is approval of meeting agenda. Agenda item number 10, 1273.
Do we have any items that staff wants to consider?
We do need an executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Do I have a motion and a second for approval of the meeting agenda with the addition of executive session to discuss, what did you say, Chris?
Pending litigation.
Pending litigation.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Thurman, second by Councilmember Tart. Hewitt, I'm sorry. I'm done. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Sorry. Councilmember Hewitt.
It's because I dressed up tonight.
You did. That's what I thought. Next item is public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. There's no discussion on items on the consent agenda or first presentation from the public or from council. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk. Please remember, this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone, stating your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes for remarks. Do we have any public comment?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Will the clerk please sound the items?
Our first item is approval of the October 11th, 2010 work session meeting minutes, agenda item number 10, 1274. Next is approval of a conservation easement protecting 8.5 acres in Brayburn subdivision, assuring that in the future, this property retains its present natural, scenic, aesthetic, watershed, wildlife, forest, and habitat condition. This easement is provided pursuant to the conditions of variance granted to the Wyland development in V08006. Approval does not require any responsibility for maintenance or monitoring of this easement by the city. Agenda item number 10, 1275. Our third item is approval of an engineering services agreement between the City of Milton, Georgia, and A&R Engineering, Inc. for intersection improvements at Cogburn Road and Bethany Bend Road in the amount of $13,900. Agenda item number 10, 1276. Our final consent agenda item is approval of a construction contract with Blunt Construction Company, Inc. in the amount of $254,754.50 for a joint construction project with Forsyth County to reconstruct McGinnis Ferry Road. This is agenda item number 10, 1277.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as prepared by staff.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Lusk and a second by Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. And we'll move on to the first presentations. So, City Clerk would please sound these items.
Our first item is approval of an ordinance establishing solid waste collection services within the City of Milton, providing for the scope and nature of the operation, providing for the disposal of garbage, solid waste, and refuse, requiring the execution by service providers of a non-exclusive agreement with the City of Milton, providing procedures for the handling of complaints, providing for an infrastructure maintenance fee, requiring indemnity insurance, providing for revocation and amendment, prohibiting assignment and subletting without consent, providing for forfeiture, and for making other provisions. This is agenda item number 10, 1278. Our second item is RZ 10-05, U10-01, VC 10-03, Deerfield Parkway, West Side, by Alpharetta Land Partners to rezone from C1 Community Business to OI Office Industrial to C1 Community Business, with a use permit to construct a special school for a transitions vocational school for adult students at least 18 years of age with autism, and an assisted living facility for autistic adults with 72 studios. The applicant is also requesting a concurrent variance to 1. Allow the exterior wall materials of all non-residential buildings and townhouses, duplexes, and multifamily buildings to consist of a minimum of 65% in lieu of 75% per vertical wall plane of the following: brick or natural stone. Section 64-1095P for the assisted living facility. 2. Allow accent building materials for all non-residential buildings and also townhouse, duplex, and multifamily units to be limited to a maximum of 35% in lieu of 25% brick, tile, non-reflective glass, natural stone, and weathered, polished, or fluted face with fluted split face, broken face finish, Portland cement plaster, and lathe systems. Architectural, either precast or tilt-up, concrete, fluted or with exposed finish, or hardy plank. Section 64-1095Q for the assisted living facility. 3. Allow the following exterior siding colors as produced by Cabot Solid Stains to be permitted: Napa Vine, Newport Blue, Brickstone, Colonial Yellow. Section 64-1095T for the assisted living facility. This is agenda item number 10, 1279. Our third and final first presentation item is U10-02, VC 10-04, 13120 Arnold Mill Road, by Frank Schaefer, The Landscape Group, Inc., for use permit for a landscaping business, Section 64-1820, and a four-part concurrent variance in the existing buildings. 1. Beginning at a point on the west property line at the northwestern property corner to reduce a portion of the 50-foot buffer and 10-foot improvement setback to 0 feet. Beginning at a point on the west property line at the northwestern property corner for a total distance of 126 feet to a point on the west property line located 126 feet south of the northwestern property corner. Section 64-1141.3.a. 2. Beginning at a point on the east property line located 40 feet south of the northeastern property corner to reduce a portion of the 50-foot buffer and 10-foot improvement setback be reduced to a 30-foot undisturbed buffer with a 10-foot improvement setback for a total distance of 98 feet to a point on the east property line located 138 feet south of the northeastern property corner. Section 64-1141.3.a. 3. To reduce the 50-foot building setback to a 44.09-foot setback for the warehouse along the east property line. Section 64-1820B3. And 4th, to reduce the 50-foot building setback to a 47.58-foot setback for the warehouse and a 28.25-foot setback for the steps to the office deck along the west property line. Section 64-1820B3. This is agenda item number 101280.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second on our first presentations?
Mayor, I put forward a motion to approve the first presentation of the items read by the city clerk.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Hewitt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, there's no items under public hearings or zoning agenda tonight, so we're going to move on to unfinished business. Will the city clerk please read those items?
Thank you. Approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 58, Utilities of the City of Milton Code of Ordinances to establish commercial car wash water recycling requirements, to repeal conflicting provisions, to provide for severability, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes. This is agenda item number 10 at 12:54, discussed at September 13th work session. First presentation was on October 4th, deferred at the October 18th council meeting. Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. This item was deferred, as the clerk just mentioned, in order that we could check with the pertinent state law and ensure there was no conflict on the definitions with that state law. We have done that. There is no conflict, and we are comfortable with the council go ahead and approving this very modest modification this evening. But there is no conflict. Thank you for that.
Okay, is there any questions for Mr. Gerard on that? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve agenda item number 10-1254, approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 58, Utilities of the City of Milton Code of Ordinances to establish commercial car wash water recycling requirements, to repeal conflicting provisions, to provide for severability, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Laska, second by Councilmember Bailey. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We'll move on to new business next. Will the city clerk please sound the next item?
Next item is intergovernmental agreement for the provision of information technology services by and between the City of Johns Creek, Georgia, and the City of Milton, Georgia. This is agenda item number 10-1281. Mr. Chris Lagerblum.
Mayor and Council, if you'll reference the document that was handed out to you tonight, it still says draft across the front of it. It's a modestly redlined document, a little bit different than what was in your package. That's what's for consideration tonight. This is, I think I have sent you several emails on this topic to this point, so hopefully, at least if you've read those, this isn't a new concept to you. Gosh, more than a year ago, we sat down as we quite frequently do as city managers, particularly in the North Fulton cities, and try to figure out how we can always get better and how we can potentially do things together that aid in increasing the, number one, effectiveness of what we're doing. Number two, saves us cost. And number three, realizes that we have no detriment to our city or no less service. About a year and a half ago, John Kackmar and I, he's the city manager in Johns Creek, sat down and said, wouldn't it be really neat as we were starting to go through our transition at the time away from CH2M Hill, and I think somewhere in the back of his head he knew that they were going to go that direction as well. We said, IT is one of those really kind of cool things that you can manage IT on site, you can manage IT remotely, you can provide better level of service if you have more users in the form of help desk options. And we said, at some point there's going to be a time that we can put together and craft a scope of work that, number one, is going to enhance the level of service we provide the city of Milton, but number two, save both us and Johns Creek costs. Now seem to be the right time as they are in the middle and just finishing their transition of their IT services away from CH2M Hill. That will be done on December the 1st, 1 month from today. We were able to work with this scope of work. And I want to highlight the fact that what you should see is absolutely nothing. There should be no difference in what you see today versus yesterday, or a week from now versus a week ago. We have crafted it in such a manner that the staff that we have become so used to relying upon here in Milton will remain in Milton. We will continue to benefit from the GIS services that we've had, which I would put up against any in the state, very honestly. And we're going to do all this in a partnership with an IGA where we increase the number of staff we have at our disposal from two, I guess, 2 or 3, depending on whether or not we're fully staffed, up to 5 or 6. In essence, what we do is we increase our, as I've termed it in the emails, we increase our bench strength by up to 150% and reduce our cost by almost 25% over the budget that you've already passed this year. We will have enhanced the level of service in the way that the city staff sees the IT function in the form of Tier 3 work orders, being those that just are kind of like password resets, or my computer won't start up, something that a reboot won't fix. And we'll see some enhancement in the timeliness and ability of multiple people to get those fixed. One of the other things that this IGA contemplates is that we will not any longer retain any IT staff on our payroll, meaning that as we buy these services, we also, in essence, save the city some money in the long-term employee costs that go along with just having people on the payroll. So Johns Creek's council had this IGA in front of them a week ago tonight. It was unanimously passed by their council. I look for your support tonight. I'll draw your attention to this document since it is a little bit different. The comments that you see in purple, I guess, as I said red line, they're purple in here. These are all comments that I can tell you I don't have any problem with, because they were all the comments that we provided Johns Creek in that we wanted to be added to the IGA. Johns Creek was the initial author of the IGA. Their city attorney, Scott Hasty, partnered up with our city attorney, Paul Higbee, and we provided some comments to give Milton a better level of comfort with this IGA, just so that we were protected in protecting our interests in some capacity, and they accepted all of those. So the changes that you see tonight, although modest, are all in the favor of the city of Milton. Like I said, Johns Creek has executed this particular IGA. They are identical. They executed theirs a week ago Monday. If you all approve this tonight, we will execute tonight as well. And actually, one portion of this IGA kicks in tonight, and that's the GIS function for the next month. And then the whole document would kick in on December the 1st, where Dave's still going to be around. You'll still see Dave. Dave's still going to be the one that's assigned to our project here in Milton. His paycheck's just going to come from somebody different. But like I said in the very beginning of the presentation, if this goes the way that John Kackmar and I intend it to go and have committed to it for it to go, you all should see absolutely no change, other than the fact that we'll need to do a budget amendment because we can reduce some of the costs out of the current budget. So anytime we can increase efficiency and reduce costs, I think that's a hard one to say, gosh, that's not a good idea. So this is kind of a culmination of a year or so of work, and one of those fun ones that it's fun ones to bring in front of the council, because I really don't see any downside to recommending to you tonight that you approve this. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Julie.
First, thank you. I think it's a great idea, and really appreciate all the effort that you and Mr. Kackmeyer put forward. My only question is in section 9.21 under possible default, where the insert of the word unreasonably and reasonably, and I realize that's to protect our interest, but Mr. Jard, if you can just take a quick look, are those terms sufficiently defined that you're comfortable?
I am. I mean, those are terms of art, and they are routinely used. I'm very comfortable.
Thank you.
Okay, but that's Bill.
Just want to commend Chris and Colonel Kackmeyer for developing this agreement. I think in a climate where government on all levels is being criticized for growing government and overspending, I think we're proving here in Milton that we can come up with cooperative agreements with surrounding jurisdictions to make services more efficient and on the other side of it, save money. So, great job. And given that, I put forth a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the provision of information technology services by and between the City of Johns Creek, Georgia, and the City of Milton, Georgia. Agenda item number 101281.
Before I take a second, just want to make sure, did anybody else have any questions or whatever?
I'll ditto his remarks and then second it.
All right, I got a motion by Councilmember Luss, second by Councilmember Thurman, and I also want to say, I agree. You know, this is an example, a positive example of the City of Milton working together with our neighboring communities. We've done some of the same stuff with Alpharetta, and it's not only saved both cities money, but it also enhances services to our citizens. So that's a great idea. And I also just like to notice that Chris, since Paul started, you and Paul are big into baseball now. I like how you use terms like bench strength and whatnot. So.
If we were that good in baseball, we'd be playing right now, I got to tell you, but we're not.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have anything that anybody on council wants to report on?
I've got something.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Please
All
go.
right. First, let me back up. Myself, I want to thank everybody, staff and council, and there's some really key volunteers for the Milton Roundup. It was an overwhelming success, and again, I always say that's one of the first things I noticed when we became a city that was a big positive was, you know, everything else is all, you know, on paper and issues that probably had with the county the same issues and whatnot. And there was, while I would see all the improvements, the average citizen probably didn't. But the Milton Roundup's a good example of teams of people working together and coming together to where you really sense, you get a sense of community, and you see the citizens enjoying themselves and feeling like they're a part of a community rather than one large county. So anyways, I did want to throw that out, that I want to thank everybody involved with the Roundup. So, but go ahead, Bert.
Mine, I guess, is along those same lines, and it's from Cindy as well as myself. Cindy was away at a conference this week, but this year's Milton Roundup was a tremendous success. We estimate attendance between 4,500 and 5,000 people. We had a total of 21 sponsors totaling $12,500 in monetary sponsorship and $12,000 in in-kind sponsorships. We had a total of 66 vendors that gave us $3,275 in fees and $200 in in-kind service, representing a variety of local business and community organizations. We had several new additions this year, including 2 entertainment areas with a variety of changing performances throughout the day. We added free pony rides and a hay ride. We also added helicopter rides for a fee. There were also 2 play areas for kids. The smaller kids were included. Area included a variety of 6 moonwalks, and the older kids included 4 activities, including the mechanical bull, bungee jump, rock wall, and Titanic slide. We also collected canned goods for the North Fulton Community Charities in exchange for a Roundup T-shirt. We were able to contribute about 400 canned goods to North Fulton Community Charities from the event. We also sold some T-shirts for a total of $126. A special thanks goes out to the 2010 Roundup Committee comprised of 5 citizens and 2 staff members. Also, we had 12 volunteers who assisted during the event, in addition to the numerous staff and various city departments that played a role in the success of this event. Notes were made by the committee and staff during the event to make additional improvements for 2011, and the committee will have a follow-up meeting on the 10th of November, and the staff plans to meet on the 9th to review notes from the event. We're planning on to hold this event annually on the 3rd Saturday of October going forward, so mark your calendars for the 5th Milton Roundup on October 15th, 2011. And that was Cindy's report, and I was able to be part of this committee pretty in-depth this year, and would like to echo those thoughts. It was the best one we've had. Had a large amount of it goes to Cindy and her experience and planning and everything. I also like to thank our fire department and police department for doing what they needed to do to help the event run good. I'd like to thank Matt for staying around and helping us clean up trash and all that kind of good stuff, and we really enjoyed it. It was a great event, so thanks everybody that helped make it a
Great job, guys.
success.
It was awesome.
You know, I think it's a good example. Everybody kind of, you know, feels a need or has their abilities, and I just want to thank Bert. I know I just happened to drive out there about 7:30 in the morning. He was there. I know he was there the night before, and who else would have been able to move the Domino's Pizza trailer that they left in the wrong place in the middle of the night but Bert, so.
Do what I have to do.
With a
Your
chain.
truck, presumably, right?
Presumably.
Just bring it up and move it.
Kind of dragged it, but anyways, somebody else said, Karen or Julie? did
I was
you-
just going to thank Bert and the committee, because obviously it was a tremendous day. It was a tremendous effort. It continues to be a great way to bring community together. And even subsequent to that, I mean, I continue to hear from students and kids and families about what a great opportunity it was to come together. So just thank you to all of those folks, including Cindy, for all that effort. And just as a subset about volunteers, as the week prior, Rivers Alive was another successful activity and opportunity to bring folks together for the benefit of cleaning up our waterways. And lots of folks, close to 100 folks, came out and cleaned up over 6 different areas and waterways throughout Milton. Thousands of pounds of trash, things that you just can't imagine come out of a location. So thanks just to volunteers in general, because we live in a pretty amazing place. But again, Bert, thank you for all of your leadership, and to Cindy and that committee for the Milton Roundup.
Okay. I'll move on to staff reports.
A couple things tonight, Mayor. I just looked over my shoulder, and I think I see some students here that I think are here from Milton High School, if I was guessing. Is that where? It must be getting close to the end of the semester. So I want to welcome them here. We're trying our best to partner in several different ways with the AP government class at Milton, and hopefully you'll see them more frequently. We've started to have some of our first job shadow students come to Milton and spend time with various department heads, and it seems to have been a real productive environment, so they're welcome at any point.
I'd like to, too, let you guys know you're always welcome here. You probably picked a good night to be here. It's only 6:45, and could have picked a meeting with a full agenda and been here till 10 or 11, so it was probably a good night to be here.
And you might even get home before the World Series starts. Also, just to generally let you know, this week the Historic Preservation Commission will meet for the first time Wednesday, November the 3rd. So that's that commission's first meeting. I also want to bring your attention to an item that's on next Monday's work session, which we've titled as a further discussion on RZ 1004, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, being the item that was taken off or that was denied on the agenda, which dealt particularly with convenience stores, service stations, and their proximity to residential. And the direction we had was to put it back on the November work session. If at some point this week you'd like to, we're coming prepared to have a couple of different discussions that night, but if you want to give us a little early feedback so that we make sure we have the right information when we come next week, that would be helpful. At this point, we know we've deferred a further discussion of something to this agenda, but we're not necessarily, we know we want to broaden it, and we took that away from the meeting, that we wanted to do something more than service stations and convenience stores. But if you have any sense and want to guide us anywhere between now and next Monday, that would help us come for that agenda item maybe a little bit more prepared. I would appreciate that. I'm also going to, and I've sent Sudi an email, maybe she's caught it, maybe she hasn't. I'm going to add one additional item to the work session of next week that deals with kind of an update on Milton's strategic plan going forward and its plan design. We're working on Milton's strategic plan after our last council workshop that will be the strategic plan for 2012 through 2015. And we're putting together a core planning team at this point. We're going to continue in this year working with Frank and Allison Foster, which I think we've enjoyed working with the Center for Strategic Management. The calendar at this point shows us having our 2012 to 2015 plan done in June or July of next year in preparation for moving through the fiscal year 12 budget process. So I'll explain that in further detail next week. I want to give you a heads up because we're going to have this core team meeting before we would meet again in December. The last thing I want you to do is realize that there's some group that's out here doing something, and what in the world are they doing? Frank and Allison will be with us next week at the work session to discuss a little bit about the plan framework and how we're going to work through this, keep the council updated at certain benchmarks at certain times of the process to make sure that we're not going astray. And I think the core planning team that we're putting together, you'll be very satisfied with. That's what I have by way of staff reports tonight on those four topics. I'd be happy if anybody wants an update on anything I haven't mentioned. I'd be happy to provide it.
I'd just like to make a comment on item number 5 of the next work session when we're talking about the zoning and the distances. My perception of this meeting is really to come together, not to walk away with answers at that meeting, but kind of have a big roundtable discussion of what we want to look at. So, again, I know Chris has asked for input, but also my personal thoughts are we're going to get together and all sit around the table and figure out what it is, and that discussion. We can all decide then too, which direction we want to go and all that. So I guess I don't anticipate being a work session where we have all the answers, but maybe we all come to a conclusion of what the answers we want to work on and move forward on that. So
that's great. That helps a lot because I just didn't want to come a week from today and y'all look at me and say, well, you got an agenda item, Chris. Why don't you have anything ready to talk about? I mean, I could foresee good things coming out of just a good roundtable. So if
that was my
that's where we want
thoughts
to come
when we
from.
talked about it before. Does everybody kind of agree with that? Okay with that? Okay.
I mean, I would like some input from staff on what other jurisdictions do and how they handle this kind of stuff, but yeah. I don't think we're going to come away with an answer necessarily, but with...
I think we'll come away with a lot of questions and then have to meet again and get some input. So the other thing I want to, we're fortunate to have at our work session, Fulton County Commission, I guess you'd call it elect, Liz Hausman, coming. And the purpose of her coming to us is really just to kind of hear what we've got to say, any questions we have. She's asked me if, is there any questions or things she needs to be prepared on. And I told her I wasn't sure, if anybody would have any specific questions. But, basically she's just kind of reaching out to us and obviously wanting to develop a good working relationship with us and the county. So, again, if you have any, just be prepared to ask her any questions. And she may or may not know the answers and can always get back with us. But that's the purpose, is for her just reaching out. So we're fortunate to have that. So, okay, if no one has anything else, do I have a motion we added to the agenda for executive session for litigation?
Mayor, I'll put forward a motion that we have an executive session specifically for pending litigation.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bailey, second by Councilmember Thurman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
All right.
Bert, vote.
Yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Well, we got to vote on the motion to reconvene.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay,
Make a motion,
at
we
this point,
adjourn.
I second the motion.
I have a motion, a second, we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
You want to say your third motion?
Any one-